short answer, Congressman Rosendale, is it's a very defined area on a tarmac, on a runway, a historic runway, and we tried to avoid all the heavy use areas of Floyd Bennett Field.
I'll have follow-ups for you, just in case. Mr. LaMalfa from California is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman Gosar. Appreciate it, and to our witnesses for being here. So there's a lot of facets to this issue here. I mean, we have so far this year approximately 2.8 million, they call them encounters, of illegal immigration at our border, and only about 230,000 this year have been deported, is the stats that I have. So we can see that when we're using our national parks, I suppose, as a temporary landing zone for folks like this, you know, maybe that would be a discussion if the border was controlled and you'd have a finite number of people already in country, but it's ever expanding. We reach a new milestone every month of people coming into this country, and it looks unstoppable presently. And so as we also see it come in another direction with more expansions of wilderness areas and monument areas, there's going to be less and less parkland available to people to enjoy the great outdoors if it's coming from both ends with, you know, illegal immigration on those lands and then less access to the other lands. So indeed, it makes me wonder how temporary are these thoughts of housing people in these places, and what term would that look like? Then what do you do at the end of that term? But what I want to drill down to is something that Chairman Westerman touched on as well in my Northern California district. In Siskiyou County, for example, which is about 700 miles from the Mexican border, the illegal marijuana grows are just vast. Many, many hundreds of greenhouses are there. And the efforts of Sheriff LaRue up there and so many and many allies there have been valiant, but it's overwhelming when we need more help from the federal government to help take care of their lands, as well as be a part of where it's happening on the private lands on those areas. It's overwhelming to have these cartels. California, of course, being a border state, it's not going to slow down very much. Interstate 5 is a pipeline for so many things, including that. So the Forest Service owns about 45% of the federal land in the area, BLM 33%, National Park Service has about 16%. So the explosion of these marijuana grows with our cartels, the chemicals, illegal chemicals that farmers can't even use in this country, not even produced here, are polluting the soil and the groundwater. And there's workers there are being effectively employed, so to speak, as indentured servants, people trafficking, the whole works. So the caches of illegal weapons that have been found, and how they are a threat to local residents just trying to live a good life and do their farming and ranching, threaten those residents, threaten our sheriff's officers and other police officers. It's not a good situation, and not even that far from the border. So me and my team have been following, trying to help our locals, Sheriff LaRue and our district attorney and others, but the invasion is so huge, we need much more help from the federal government to curb this destruction of our public lands and our way of life up there. So how are your agencies in partnership with BLM working to support our local law enforcement who have become the de facto frontline responders to drug smuggling, human trafficking, and other international criminal activity? Let me throw it to you, Mr. Reynolds, first.
Yeah, again, as I mentioned earlier, and let me just say, Mr. LaMalfa, we appreciate those comments. We want to keep working with you and your team on these issues. We're aware of some of the closure issues that have also perhaps come up with these fires. So a big part of what we do is work with other agencies that have better intel. A lot of times our local sheriff department cooperate, our local law enforcement are really big partners in this. And again, especially in the parks that you mentioned, it's Forest Service usually around us, almost always, sometimes BLM up in that part of the world, and we work as closely as we can so that both uniforms, if you will, are out on site whenever they find these places and start to remove them, document them.
Getting to maybe more the core of the issue, is there any lack of federal authority that you need for you to work with Homeland Security, the FBI, or other local and state agencies to do more, to go farther, to be able to enforce? Because these grows are not hidden. They're right out in front of everybody. The greenhouses dot the landscape. And whether it's in Siskiyou County or other surrounding counties, whether it's they're illegally on federal land or somehow have the, somehow cover of legality with who owns the land, which they're blowing through county ordinances. What more could we be doing? What other authorities do you need?
I think the authorities are there. I can let Mr. French comment on any
Okay,
gaps
please.
that we may have. It just may be a staffing and a continuing prioritizing that we need to focus on.
Please, Mr. French, I'm a little out of time already. It flies by here, but go ahead.
No worries, thank you. Yeah, I think it fundamentally comes down to a staffing issue. We work incredibly closely with our other federal partners, states, counties. It's a manpower issue. In the last 5 years, we remediated more than 330 grow sites, took out 370 miles of pipe. It's a big issue.
Well,
And
we're
it
talking
creates savings.
thousands of grow sites, right in people's face. So if you're talking staffing, we need to partner with more agencies that already has staff. So, and we'll work with you some more. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate it, and I'll yield back.
Thank you, gentlemen. The gentleman from Arizona's got a request.
Thank you. Just a unanimous consent request.